Yo, what is up guys, your boy IzuKage here with part 2 of What If Naruto was Mob Psycho's Reincarnation. And yes, I know, this what if should have been a long time ago. Like part 1 was a week ago, I'm pretty sure, so sorry about that one, but let's just get right into the what if. Before we start, let me explain a bit more about Mob's powers because people just think it's telekinesis. I'm adding that he can also use different elements because in Mob Psycho we do see different espers using pyrokinesis and electrokinesis. So I'll have him use it for all 5 elements, like why not? I did say this a bit in the last part, but I just want to make it clear. So after doing their physical exams outside, everyone went inside to get their results on the written part and be assigned to their team. Naruto and the rest of the class are just chilling, and you know, people are whispering and murmuring about how terrible Naruto did Sasuke. And you know, he's in the school medical area, so he's spared from hearing people drag his name through the dirt. But when Iruka comes in with a clipboard and goes to the front of the class, everyone becomes silent and he starts reading off the names, telling people their grades for the written portion. The top 3 students were Naruto, then Sakura, then Sasuke. But you know, this wasn't really a shock to most people since Naruto has constantly been coming like top 5 in the class academically. After he was finished with everyone in the class, the doors to the classroom slide open to show a broken and beaten Sasuke. He slowly walked over to his desk and sat down in silence. Iruka said, "Good to see you, Sasuke. Well, you know, we're about to assign teams, so sit tight." So the only difference with the teams would be that Sakura and Ino would be switching place. So team 7 will be Naruto, Sasuke, and Ino. After the teams were announced, Hinata got up and shouted, "How did she get on his team?" And everyone was surprised at Hinata's outburst and just stared in disbelief. Hinata froze, realizing, you know, what she just did, and quickly sat back down. Iruka was like, okay, well class, your Jonin senseis will be here soon, so good luck on your ninja journey. As soon as he left the class, Asuma and Kurenai sensei were already waiting at the door, so those teams left, while team 7 had to wait. An hour went by and Kakashi still wasn't there, and Naruto just had his head on the desk while Sasuke had his hands folded and tapping his feet, like visibly annoyed. Ino was pretty annoyed as well, but she saw how Naruto wasn't that bothered, so she kept quiet. Like, Naruto just had his head on the desk, bro was chilling. So another hour went by and Kakashi opened the door to the classroom. He immediately greets his new team but got no response, so Kakashi said, guys, you see, I got lost on the path of life, what can I say? You know, you get lost sometimes. But still, no one responded until Naruto woke up and he saw their sensei was there, and he just gave him a quick wave. Kakashi was like, okay, so guys, meet me on the roof, and team 7 did. They walked up there together, but Sasuke still was visibly pissed off with Kakashi. So once they get to the roof, Kakashi does his usual thing, asking them to introduce themselves and state their likes, dislikes, and goals for the future. First up was Ino. She said she liked working at her parents' flower shop, she likes eating, and someone in particular, wink 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 wink. She dislikes people with billboard foreheads, I wonder why, and her goals was to make her father proud. Next up, Sasuke Uchiha. Nothing really changes about this guy, except he says he wants to surpass a certain someone, giving Naruto a death glare. But Naruto wasn't even looking at this guy, bro. It was off in space, not even listening. So Kakashi had to snap his fingers to get his attention, and then Naruto went. His likes were ramen, dislikes, you know, anyone who makes him angry, and his goals were to master his powers. Kakashi was interested in Naruto's answer, you know, what is this supposed power he needs to control? But anyways, he tells them to meet him at the training ground tomorrow for the bell test. And body flickers away. So when Naruto is walking home, he bumps into Hinata actually, and she's really excited to see him, and with a big smile says, "Hi Naruto, like what's up?" And Naruto was hesitant because Hinata never acts like this, but still he says hi back. Now Hinata starts talking 100 words a minute, and Naruto had to like slow her down, and he says, "Well, I'd love to talk, but look at the time, I gotta go." And Hinata did look sad, but she just said, "Okay, that's fine. I'll see you later, Naruto." And she just forces a smile. So when Naruto walks off, Hinata puts on a sadistic smile and from a distance followed Naruto home. And when it was nighttime and Naruto went to bed, Hinata was peeking through his window, smiling. And she thought, "He looks so cute when he sleeps. Why can't he just be with me?" And she sighs heavily, and after a couple more minutes, she heads home. So the next day, Naruto gets up, ready to start the day, and he's looking out the window, and he realizes something. There's a handprint on it? Nah, couldn't be. He's just seeing things, right? So Naruto gets dressed and runs down to Ichiraku Ramen for a quick bite to eat. Kakashi did say not to eat anything, but Naruto wasn't even paying attention for that long. So he gets a nice big bowl of ramen with meat, eggs, and fish cakes. So he gets done with that, thanks Teiuchi and Ayame, and heads out to the training ground, where he meets up with Ino. She tells him good morning, and they start chatting for a bit, and Ino said, "Whoa, Naruto, I didn't realize you were that much taller than me." And she's getting on her tippy toes, like using her hand to measure, and then she loses her balance and falls onto Naruto. He tries catching her, but it was a bit too late, and he ends up wrapping his arms around her torso, and so did Ino. And they were basically hugging. Naruto was unable to move. His cheeks were red of embarrassment, and so were Ino's, but she managed to release the hug and apologize over and over, and Naruto still couldn't talk. Steam was coming off this man, this was his first female interaction. But not long after, he cooled down for a bit, and let's actually switch perspectives to Sasuke. He wasn't that far away from the two. He was in a tree nearby and saw what was going on. He said, "How is that dope stronger than me?" Ugh. And he pulls out a kunai and thinks he should be able to dodge this. And he throws the kunai at Naruto's head, but as he releases it, Sasuke realizes, "Wait, what am I even doing? What if he doesn't realize? And what if he kills his teammate?" So the kunai heads straight towards Naruto's head, and as it was about to hit him, it stopped mid-air. And Sasuke was confused what just happened, and he went to wipe his eyes, to make sure they were working properly. And when he looks at it again, the kunai was gone. But he looked down at his feet, and it was just lying there. Now Sasuke was thoroughly confused just how. But before he could fully have his questions answered, Kakashi appeared in front of Naruto and Ino, instructing them to go into the training ground. And he body flickered behind Sasuke, grabbing him and went down to the others. So he explains in details the bell test and says, whoever takes a bell first passes. So no one really thinks much of this, and they understand, and Kakashi says begin, and they all sprint into the forest. Sasuke and Ino realize Naruto, ever since the start of the match, Naruto just has a different vibe about him. His whole demeanor changed to be more serious. So Ino was the first to suggest a plan to get the bells from Kakashi. She was going to be a decoy and lure Kakashi into the forest where Naruto and Sasuke would ambush him, hoping to snag a bell. Sasuke didn't think this was such a bad idea, but Naruto said, "Just wait right here, I'll handle it." And Sasuke got up and grabbed his shoulders while he was walking away and says, "What do you mean you'll handle it? He's a Jonin. What do you think you can do?" Naruto turned around, his eyes were glowing, and an invisible force pushed Sasuke back into a tree. Ino got up and said, "Guys, let's not fight." And Naruto just turned away and walked out into the open. So to Kakashi's point of view, he stops reading, the material, Ichi Ichi Paradise, and sees Naruto walking towards him. At first he just thinks, "Wow, this kid is real cocky just to be walking up to me in the open." But Kakashi felt something strange. Naruto had some sort of aura around him. He was trying to figure it out, but after blinking, Naruto disappeared. Kakashi's eyes widened, starting to look around. Maybe he's seeing things, seeing if he could find Naruto, but behind him he got a kick in the back, sending him across the training ground. He manages to catch himself though, and Kakashi was breathing heavily and looked up, and Naruto was already running towards him. He quickly lifted his headband and dodged a punch from Naruto, and the force of the punch shook the trees behind them. Then the two got into a heated taijutsu bout, but it was mainly one-sided. Naruto throwing kicks after punches, and all Kakashi could do was dodge or block. This went on for a while until Naruto pulled Kakashi into his grip by the neck and slammed him into the ground. Kakashi was barely conscious, and when Naruto raised his fist for another punch, he used a substitution jutsu, and the log that was replaced him broke into a bunch of pieces. Kakashi was standing in a nearby tree and was freaking out like, "What is this kid?" But he wasn't safe for long. Naruto turned around to him, and with a wave of his hand, Kakashi came flying towards him. He took out a kunai though with an exploding tag on it and threw it at Naruto, blowing up right in his face. And this made Naruto drop Kakashi. But when the smoke cleared, Naruto was completely fine, not even his clothes were soiled. So to finish this quickly, Naruto used telekinesis and drags the bell towards him, but Kakashi grabbed one before it got away. He then weaved hand signs and launched a fireball, but Naruto just opened his palm and a stream of fire came bursting out, engulfing Kakashi's, and headed for him. So he weaved more hand signs and slammed his hand on the ground, and a mud wall came up blocking the attack. Naruto then started gathering a massive amount of energy in his hand and thought of wind. With this in mind, he released the energy in the form of violent winds, breaking the mud wall and lifting Kakashi off the ground and just throwing him around for a couple seconds until it died down and he started falling from the sky into the trees, which broke his fall so he didn't die. So Naruto ran over to find Kakashi, and he did, found him stuck in some branches, and Kakashi said, "Damn Naruto, what power was that? Jesus, at least get me up, at least get me down." Naruto obliged, but first grabbed the other bell, and he used his kunai to cut Kakashi free and brought him out into a clearing, where Ino and Sasuke were running at their sensei, and she took out some herbs her parents gave to her earlier, and this was supposed to help numb the pain, while Sasuke was staring straight at Naruto, mouth wide open in disbelief at what he just saw. Naruto then picked Kakashi up using his shoulder as support and brought him to the hospital. The next day, Team 7 went back to check on him, and he was doing alright, And while they were there, Hiruzen walked in. He heard Kakashi was in the hospital, and they are close friends-ish. So Hiruzen sees Kakashi all bandaged up and says, "What happened? Who did this to you?" And Kakashi just pointed to Naruto. Hiruzen was confused and he said, "Naruto?" And Kakashi just nodded. Hiruzen didn't know what to think, and he just said how, he wanted to believe but just couldn't imagine Naruto doing half the things Hiruzen was telling him. So he has to find out. Later that day, Hiruzen scheduled a fight, and the entire village was welcome to come and watch. It was a fight between the Rookie of the Year, Naruto Uzumaki, and an Anbu member trained by Hiruzen himself. And some of the people who came thought this was a joke. How could this kid even be compared to a member of the Anbu? They're like special ops. So some of them actually left. They had better things to do than see a kid get beat up. But all of the Konoha 12 was there, and their senseis also. And this arena isn't the same as the Chunin exams, it's just a clearing in front of the Hokage mansion. So with everything situated, Hiruzen starts the match, and before the Anbu member could even move, Naruto slams his hand into the ground, turning it into mud. The Anbu started sinking, unable to move. Then Naruto sent out a massive bolt of lightning. And the Anbu member, this is lightning, so there's no dodging it unless you can move at the speed of light. So this shocks the Anbu member, and so much that he passes out almost immediately, and everyone there was just silent. unable to just comprehend what they just saw. How did Naruto take down an Ambu in what, 0.5 seconds? So Hiruzen comes down and like checks if the Ambu was alright, so Naruto didn't like kill him or anything, and he was taken off to the infirmary, you know, with medical ninjas and stuff like that. Hiruzen walked up to Naruto and said, "How did you get this power?" Naruto responding saying, "I always had it, I just never could control it." Hiruzen was surprised but happy for Naruto. You know, the kid's been through a lot, and to see him pull through, Hiruzen was just happy. So the news spread all over the village that Naruto had some incredible power. Most didn't believe it. Like, who would believe the nobody kid, the one that no one talks to, the one that has no friends, has some magical power, just some unexplainable power? But people who were actually at the fight confirmed this, and it was just, many people just didn't believe it. So after the fight, there was a council meeting that was called, excluding the civilian council though. They discussed what to do now, and Hisashi said we need to find out how he will fare against ninjas outside the village. And they all agreed on this, because even though Naruto did beat that Ambu, and as fast as he did, that was impressive, but that doesn't say how he would fare against outside ninjas. And it's kind of like you study from a biology textbook front and back, you know every single word in the book, and you ace every test, but can you make vaccines though? Exactly. So the next day, Team 7 was called into Hiruzen's office, and they were given a A-rank mission to assassinate the rogue ninja Kisame. Yes, in this, Kisame was sent to stop the progress of the bridge instead of Zabuza. So Naruto and his team head out immediately, and on their journey, the entire time Sasuke has been giving Naruto these glares, though they all went unnoticed. So they make it to the land of rays pretty quick, because they're jumping from tree to tree instead of just walking like in canon. And they make it to the bridge, and just barely the team sees a man with shark-like features and a sword on his back wrapped in bandages. It was hard to see because it was lightly raining and pretty foggy. So the man rushed to Tazuna, trying to, off Tazuna, but Kakashi jumped in, kicking him to the side, and the rest of Team 7 landed with him. Zabuza Kisame regained his composure and looked at the team, and he smirks and says, "So the Leaf sent their copy ninja to try and get rid of me, huh? Well, we'll see about that." And he grabs Samehada off his back and rushes at Kisame. Oh my god, I keep messing up these names. And rushes at Kakashi, who was standing there ready to block, but as he went to swing, Kisame wasn't aiming for Kakashi. He was aiming for the one he saw as the weakest on the team, Ino. The spines of Samehada ripped deep wounds into Ino's stomach, causing her to fall onto the ground bleeding. Kakashi was surprised and shot a fireball at Kisame, trying to hit him, but he dodges, and they start a whole fight. And while they were doing that, Naruto just stood over Ino's body, unable to think of words, just tears rolling down his eyes, hidden by the rain. He fell to his knees, and his psychic powers began releasing from his body in uncontrollable amounts. Some of this psychic energy actually entering Ino's wounds and healing them. But Naruto didn't realize this. His whole body had a black aura around him, and Naruto got up and faced Kisame, who had stopped fighting Kakashi by now. Naruto walked towards him, and every step cracked the bridge. Kisame laughed and said, "What are you gonna do, kid?" And he rushes at him and uses Samehada to try and cut through Naruto, but on contact, Samehada explodes. It tried absorbing the psychic energy, but it proved too much and too powerful for him, and it destroyed it from the inside. Kisame's eyes widened and he tried running, but he got pulled back to Naruto. Holding both arms, clouds above them started gathering and rumbling with lightning, and a giant bolt came down from the clouds and struck Naruto and Kisame. But not once. Over and over, lightning struck the same point, completely frying Kisame in the process, and Naruto was unaffected. he released Kisame, who was actually dead, but he was ready to tear him apart. But Kakashi places his hand on Naruto's shoulder and says, "Don't. He's dead." More tears start flowing out of Naruto's eyes, but it was calming. And Kakashi said, "You know she's not dead, right?" Naruto was confused and said, "Stop, don't even play like that, Kakashi." And he said, "But I'm not joking." And when he turns around, Ino was still on the ground, but all her wounds were completely healed and she was breathing. Now the tears were flowing, so Naruto used his power to actually finish the bridge and fix all the destruction he caused, saving them a bunch of time. And after that, they got Ino back to the village where she could be properly treated, even though she was basically fine. She just wasn't awake yet. So I feel like this is a good place to end, so thank you guys for sticking around to the end of the video. If you liked it, if you like my content in general, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next What If.